What if I told you a defensive end could score a 76-yard touchdown? Meet Jared Verse, the edge rusher who turns defense into instant offense.
I'm Leah, and I'm genuinely excited to dig into this one. It's a story that blends speed, power, and a few jaw-dropping twists.
I'm Garrett. I'm down for that. Let's set the stage for Jared Verse's rise and why his game just hits different.
Jared Verse, a first-round NFL defensive end who went from the University at Albany to Florida State, then exploded as a pro with the Rams before a blockbuster trade to the Browns. Fast track, big moments, and a knack for changing games. Here's something to get us started. Once at a high school playoff game, I watched a defensive end slice around the edge, punch the ball out, and then chase it down for a score. I remember thinking, that's so wild because defense usually ends the story with a tackle. This guy wrote a whole new chapter. I felt that same jolt watching Jared Verse's long return touchdowns, a 57-yard scoop and score in a playoff win against the Vikings, and a 76-yard return off a blocked field goal against the Falcons. Those are moments where you can hear the air get sucked out of a stadium, right? They make you rethink what a defensive lineman can do in space.
Totally. Those plays hit because of what a defensive end actually is, an edge rusher, lined up on the outside of the defensive line. The job is part sprinter and part sledgehammer. You set the edge against the run so nothing bounces outside, then collapse the pocket and finish with sacks. A sack is just tackling the quarterback behind the line on a pass, simple on paper, tough in reality. Verse fits that mold with classic speed to power. You explode off the snap like a track start and then convert that speed into force through the blocker. He also uses hand counters, little techniques to swat or chop an offensive tackle's hands, and he can bend around the corner without losing speed. That bend is rare because it lets him take the shortest path to the quarterback without drifting upfield.
And when people say tackles for loss or TFLs, they mean any tackle that pushes the offense backward. Those stack up fast when an edge plays decisive and disciplined. A strip sack is forcing a fumble while sacking the quarterback. High risk for the offense, high reward for the defense. Verse checks all those boxes. Plus, he's comfortable with the ball in space. That's not typical for a big edge rusher. But his track background and his time playing tight end in high school show up there. He's not just fast in a straight line, he understands angles and timing the way a pass catcher does.
Let's dig into this from the beginning. Jared Isaiah Verse was born November 2000 in Dayton, Ohio. He grew up in Berwick, Pennsylvania and Greenville, North Carolina, and moving around gave him different football cultures to absorb. His dad, Eric, served in the Marine Corps and works as an engineer. His mom, Janie N., works in marketing and even helped organize his recruiting. 5 siblings, that's structure and a built-in support team. Not gonna lie, that balance of discipline and planning shows up in how he made big decisions later.
He attended Hope Middle School, then D.H. Conley High in North Carolina for a year, and finally Central Columbia High in Pennsylvania. At Central Columbia, he earned 3 straight all-conference honors in the Pennsylvania Heartland Athletic Conference. 3 in a row means coaches kept seeing consistent dominance. He also played basketball, which teaches footwork and timing, and he ran track on a state champion 4x400 relay. That relay piece matters. It tells you he had real top-end speed and the stamina to sustain it. Plus, he played both defensive end and tight end, so he read leverage from 2 angles, offense and defense. That's a nice brain and body combo for an edge rusher.
Okay, so here's where the college chapter starts. In 2019, he redshirted at the University at Albany. Redshirting means you practice and develop but preserve game eligibility. Then the pandemic shifted the 2020 season into early 2021. In just 4 games, he posted 22 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, and 4 sacks. That's bonkers per game. He was named second-team All-CAA and Defensive Rookie of the Year in the Colonial Athletic Association, which is an FCS conference. FCS is the subdivision below the top FBS level, but it still produces real NFL talent.
Then 2021 hits, and he goes first-team All-CAA, with 53 tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, and 9.5 sacks. That kind of leap says he didn't just flash, he sustained. It drew attention from bigger programs. Why did that jump matter so much? Because it proved his disruption wasn't a one-off. When a defender forces offenses to change protection plans week after week, that's when coaches say, okay, this guy travels to the next level.
Exactly. That's the why. Sustained dominance means your skill set is portable. So he transfers to Florida State in 2022. The ACC is a Power 5 conference at the FBS level, much stiffer competition, and he immediately becomes a force. 48 tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 9 sacks. He's named Florida State's defensive MVP, first team All-ACC, and an All-American. All-American just means you're among the best at your position in the whole country. Not a small thing.
Then he runs it back in 2023. 41 tackles, 12.5 tackles for loss, 9 sacks. Again, first team All-ACC and an All-American. And again, Florida State's defensive MVP. Back-to-back awards tell you leadership and reliability were there, not just highlights. Teammates and coaches voted him their most valuable defender twice. That's real weight in a locker room. It also says protection slid his way, and he still produced.
Late 2023, he declared for the 2024 NFL Draft. In April, he went 19th overall to the Los Angeles Rams. First-round capital means they believed he'd be a day one edge, and he was. In Week 1 at Ford Field on Sunday Night Football against the Lions, he logged his first career sack. That debut under primetime lights, yeah, that checks out for setting the tone.
September 2024, he's named NFL Defensive Rookie of the Month with 19 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and a sack across the month. Then, in Week 13, he seals a win with a strip sack on Derek Carr, who's a veteran quarterback known for quick release timing. Doing that on 4th and short late is clutch. And I love this. In the 2024 postseason wildcard, he scoops a fumble and goes 57 yards for a touchdown against the Vikings. Defensive end, sprinting in space, finishing, chef's kiss.
Then the divisional round against the Eagles, a top NFC team, he racks up 4 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. Even in the loss, that's huge. After the season, he's voted the 2024 Defensive Rookie of the Year, makes the PFWA All-Rookie team, and he's the Rams' only Pro Bowler that year. Being the single Pro Bowl rep for your team as a rookie, that's something to chew on, huh? In the regular season, he posted 66 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. Then in 2 playoff games, he added 2 sacks and that 57-yard score.
In 2025, he levels up again. 58 tackles, 7.5 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, and 3 forced fumbles. He blocks a field goal in Week 17 against the Falcons. Zane Gonzalez was the kicker. And Verse not only blocks it, he returns it 76 yards for a touchdown. That's a wild swing. Points off the board for Atlanta, 6 on the board the other way. He made the Pro Bowl again, and in January 2026, he sacked Sam Darnold, the Seahawks quarterback, in the NFC Championship game. Producing deep into January is where reputations really settle in.
Through the end of 2025, he had 124 regular season tackles, 12 sacks, 22 tackles for loss, 5 forced fumbles, and playoff production that matched the moment. Then comes June 2026. The Rams trade Jared Verse plus a 2027 first-round pick, a 2028 second, and a 2029 third to the Browns for Myles Garrett. Quick note, Myles Garrett is one of the NFL's elite edge rushers. That kind of package shows how premium pass rush is. Cleveland gets a young, ascending edge on a cost-controlled path and future picks. LA gets a proven superstar right now.
Can I ask why the blocked field goal return and the fumble return touchdown matter beyond just being cool highlights? For real, what do they say about him that a regular sack doesn't?
Great question. It shows ball skills and open field vision that you don't expect from a big edge. It confirms the track speed isn't just a testing number. It translates to real plays where angles and acceleration decide everything. It also screams high motor. You don't run 50 or 70 yards to the end zone late in the season without conditioning and intent. And coaches love players who impact special teams. It widens how they can deploy you in tight games.
All right, time to pull on a thread. What if Jared Verse never transferred from Albany to Florida State? Staying at the FCS level, would he have still gone first round in 2024 and won Defensive Rookie of the Year? I'm kind of torn. The traits were always there, but the ACC tape felt like an amplifier.
I hear you. I think the FCS dominance alone might have put him in day 1 or early day 2 draft conversations. But the Florida State jump did 2 things. 1, it validated his speed to power and hand usage against elite offensive tackles. 2, it put him on every big scouting checklist with All-American status and back-to-back MVPs. Without that, he probably still gets drafted high, but first round 19th overall feels less certain. And Defensive Rookie of the Year is tough to project if he lands on a team that doesn't lean into his strengths right away.
Real talk, the transfer also showed adaptability. A quick adjustment from FCS to ACC is a proxy for how fast you'll acclimate in the NFL. That's something general managers look for. If he stays at Albany, he might need a longer runway in the league to prove the same point. Still, I won't rule out his ceiling. The motor, the burst, the edge discipline, it travels. Maybe the path just takes an extra season to click, instead of popping in week 1 under the bright lights.
That's a solid point. Context matters. Landing spot, coaching, and snap count. At Florida State, he showed he could be the centerpiece, drawing protection slides and still winning. That kind of tape likely secured the first-round grade and set him up for an immediate role in LA. So yeah, I lean toward the transfer being the accelerator that moved him from probable pro to instant impact pro.
Speaking of bright lights, his NFL debut was on Sunday Night Football at Ford Field. That's a pop culture moment as much as a football one. Then the Pro Bowl selections, first in 2024, when he was their only representative, and again after 2025. Those nods cross over into mainstream sports chatter. I could see a future documentary walking through the Albany tape to the ACC leap. Then those 2 touchdowns that came from defense and special teams. That's a story worth telling.
All right, let's roll on to a big what if. What if the Rams hadn't traded Jared Verse and those future picks for Myles Garrett? If LA kept Verse, they'd hold on to a cost-controlled edge with ascending production and all that draft capital. That could mean bolstering multiple positions over the next few years, continuity in the scheme, and Verse becoming the face of their pass rush for a decade.
On the flip side, the Browns without that trade keep Myles Garrett, who's an established superstar. Cleveland's identity stays win now with a proven terror off the edge. If they don't make the trade, they don't get the extra picks or the younger timeline, so their cap and roster build remain more top-heavy. Meanwhile, Verse keeps stacking seasons in Los Angeles. Maybe he pushes into double-digit sacks in year 3. Maybe he adds another special teams splash. It's not a stretch. The trajectory points that way.
Here's another angle. The Rams, by not trading, could pair Verse with a complementary interior rusher through those saved picks. Edge plus interior synergy is how defenses create one-on-one wins. Also, not giving up a future first or second means more flexibility. But I get why they did it. Myles Garrett is a known quantity at the absolute top tier. It's a classic now versus next trade-off.
And for Cleveland, by making the trade, they shift the timeline. They bet on Verse's upward curve and the value of those picks. If they hadn't, they'd ride with certainty today, but less future flexibility. Either path is defensible. The interesting is how much esteem the league gives to elite pass rush, multiple high picks plus a rising star for a superstar. That's not everyday business. That's franchise shaping.
I'm leaving this one thinking about how a two-sport, two-way high schooler rode track speed, technique, and timing from the CAA to the ACC to prime time and Pro Bowls. That's pretty cool, right?
Same here. From a 57-yard playoff scoop and score to a 76-yard blocked kick return, those are not flukes, they're a blueprint. Stay curious, because his next chapter in Cleveland has layers we haven't seen yet.